Good morning here from Los Angeles. Valerie Milano, senior editor of the Hollywood Times and aspiringmagazine.com. And we're going to introduce ourselves first. So go for it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Key, and I'm a contributing writer for the Hollywood Times.
Hi, my name is Cheech Marin, and I'm an entertainer, writer, director, musician, and art aficionado. Uh, 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 Head of the Cheech Marin Center for Chicano Art in Riverside, California. Ta-da!
We're so excited to have you here today. Most people are familiar with your extensive acting and comedic background. What they don't know is how well versed you are with art history. Please share with us who a few of your favorite artists are in history and who have influenced you to appreciate art.
Well, I started appreciating art from a very young age because I had this group of cousins we were real kind of scholastic kids, and I got assigned to learn about art and bring it back to the group of everything we know. So I went to the library, started learning about art, and so on an academic side, I knew a lot about Western art, but the people that were teaching me at the library encouraged me to go to museums because you have to see paintings live. I mean, that's the only way to see them. And so I started doing that. So I at a very young age, I had pretty good art knowledge. And so then when I got to the position that I had actual money to buy art, I started collecting Chicano art because that's what's happening, the group at the time. And I knew I saw what they were doing. I saw what it was built on, the precedents. So they are all either art school and or university trained. And so I said, this is a new group. This is a new school to come in here and they have something important to say. And so I started collecting their work. And now, lo, these many years, 50 years later, we have our own museum. So it's really cool.
I love that. That's wonderful. On your website, cheechmarin.com, you published an article entitled, "What is a Chicano?" You poignantly wrote, "Chicano is not a category that appears on any U.S. Census survey. You can get a PhD in Chicano studies from Harvard and other prestigious universities, collect retirement checks after having taught Chicano studies at these prestigious universities, but there's still no official recognition from the government. In your opinion, do you believe your appearance on ARTBOUND, along with the talented artists, will inspire future diverse generations of artists and make an impact bringing about change?"
Well, I know they will because they are doing the same way that they were influenced when they started going to these art schools, learning about art history. They're now included in that continuum of history. And so you can see their influence spreading right from the OGs in the late 60s to the present day, because Chicano is an evolutionary term. What it does is combine everything that's put in its path, uh, all their history, all their cultural backgrounds from Mexico or any other Latin country that they come in from, and incorporate it and spill out something new that nobody's ever seen, and that's what they're doing. So they are a part of art history, and so they, in that sense, they've accomplished that mission. But we're now in our fourth generation of Chicano painters, and the establishment is spreading all across the country, and especially in the Midwest, where it always has been. The Midwest, Chicago is the second biggest repository of Chicanos and Mexicans in the United States outside of Los Angeles. Who would have guessed that? I found it out the first time I went there. Went to there was a Mexican restaurant across a street from the nightclub we were playing at. Mexican food in Chicago?
All
What
right.
what are they gonna have? Like soap with the sauerkraut or something like that? But you go in there and you look and it's the real thing, the real kind of food, and there's nothing but Mexicans in there. So I learned very quickly that there was a huge population of Mexicans right from maybe the late 30s because of the advent of the railroads could bring straight from Mexico into the heartland of the Midwest to work in the factories, the fields, the whatever the jobs were available then. So, and it's been going on for a long time without recognition. But now they got. I can't hear you.
Do y'all hear a little feedback every now and then?
No.
Okay, then I guess it's me. Um, so I know you talked about it a little bit ago, but can you talk a little bit more? How did you evolve from an actor to becoming an art collector?
Well, I was always a collector of something all my life, ever since I was a kid, stamps, coins, baseball cards, matchbook covers, anything that, okay, get the whole set. That was, I had a penchant for codifying all those things. I was collecting marbles, like, oh, and so when I came to art, I started, oh, well, I can't afford any of this art to buy it. I had no money. And and I said, well, but I can learn about it, It's because, and it was aided by being raised Catholic. And that's kind of from the 14th to 12th or century on, that was the only art, that was art. It was liturgical art. And every time I went into the church in my neighborhood, I would be playing in this ceremony or whatever it was for a little kid going on forever. And I started looking at the ceilings, and there would be paintings on the ceilings of guys in sheets walking around the clouds. And why are they barbecuing that guy in the corner? What's going on here? So it was mayhem and mystery all at the same time. My favorite subjects. And so I was attracted as a kid, and so I learned about art, but it was always taught in the school that I went to Catholic school, so it was always taught there.
Cheech, can I ask you a quick question unrelated? Are we expecting someone else to be in this interview? Because I see there's a Yvette Shearer in a waiting room.
I think she's listening to it. She's my publicist, and she
Okay,
will.
let me just let her in so she can listen.
Okay, let her in. There she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I guess she'll be Yvette. You're going to be in the background, or you want to be on camera?
Not on camera.
Okay,
She's monitored
there.
face now. We
All
can't
right.
show her face.
Okay, we'll cut that part out, and then we'll just keep going, Sarah.
Right. That's
Yeah.
good.
So I had a similar influence with art. It was always introduced to me in school. So I feel like there should be like more ways art should be pushed.
Yeah,
So
it is being, the more you design programs that help people create art,
right,
then you will get the big push, because it's part of the curriculum. I mean,
right.
in schools, the art programs are the first to go and the last to come back, so you're, but we can't live without art. We see it everywhere we go, every day. So it's good to know about it and how it influences our lives, and it satisfies us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in the documentary, you mentioned your love for the artworks of John Valadez and Michael Alvarez. Would there be a particular artist displayed at the Cheech who inspires you the most and helps you find your centeredness or balance?
Well, there's so many of them. It's like picking out your favorite kid. The one who isn't bugging you at that time. It changes all the time because they're new artists. They keep coming in, and they're influenced by the artists that came right before them, and they will influence the artists that come after them. So every day, I mean, almost every month, I find a new artist, that like, wow, this is cool. I want to see how this person develops. So that's a cool process. I mean, that really is to know these people from almost 50 years, and see them develop and influence other artists. It's one of the most gratifying experiences in the whole deal.
Have you ever considered becoming an artist yourself?
Well, not a graphic artist or one of the paints, because I was discouraged from doing that very early. I was on, I think, first or second grade. No, I guess this is first grade. And we took a trip. I was born in South Central LA, and down the street was the Grand Central Market. So the class was taken to a field trip down there, and everything that grew on the face of the earth was in that market, and all these exotic plants and fruits and vegetables, and like I was just stunned. So when we came back to the class, the teacher said, I want everybody to draw a picture of the thing that influenced or they were impressed the most of in their trip. And I saw these banana squashes, and they were huge and they were big. They were way taller than me, and I was always the littlest kid. And so I drew them with my big yellow crayons and blah blah. And so she went around the class admiring or commenting on everybody's work. Oh, well, this you used all the colors. Oh, that's good. And this is good. And she came to mind, she picked it up and looked at those things. She goes, well, you'll never be an artist. And it was like a crushing to my soul, like a knife in my heart. And okay. And I just kind of crawled off in the corner so my artistic soul could die in peace, So, but I never gave up my love for art and learning about it. So, well, if I can't be an artist, because you believe anything they tell you at those times, and I didn't know art was something you could learn how to do. I thought it was like being fast or being tall or being skinny or whatever that was you. You came with those. And so, but I always admired art and kept going to museums and kept learning about art. I think it turned out all right in the end. Every art group needs an advocate.
There you go.
Absolutely. I think my favorite part of the documentary was the 420 reference, which the viewers will see soon. Do you believe that things happen for a reason? And do you believe in receiving signs?
Absolutely, I believe in that, because when you pray for something, if you pray for it in the form of that request, and if you believe in that, it does a lot of directing energy towards that source, And so I was at a crossroads. They asked me to give them the collection that I had put together for 50 years, and they would not give me the building, but they would provide the building for as long as the building existed to show the collection. And every big collector comes to that same point at some point in their collecting. What am I going to do with this? I can't keep it under the bed or in the closet or in the garage. Every inch of every wall is covered in art. What do I do with the rest of it? And they're always faced with that quandary. I was fortunate enough to have a city come to me and offer me this request. I didn't understand what they were saying at first. You want me to buy a museum? I'm doing okay, but I don't know if I'm museum rich at this point, And so I said, no, we want to give you the building for the collection. And for any collector, that is the dream come true. This is the impossible dream, which I never dreamed. It's just not going to happen. Oh, you should have your own museum. I should have a jet plane too, but I don't got that. And so when this offer came in, I didn't understand that they were saying. No, we want to give you but you have to give us we'll take care of it, and it'll be funded by the city and everything. So I was looking for a sign that I didn't know whether I was going to do this or not, and was looking for a sign. So you help me now. You got me into this, so come on. And so I was walking across the floor one day, and I was asking the person who knew how big is this building, because it's a fairly big building. She said 66,420 square feet, and I go, that's it. 420, that's the sign that I'm supposed to do this, and I believe in signs. So there we were.
Yeah, love it. Oh, do you feel that, Cheech, that more Latina women will become inspired through this episode and create more inspirational artwork for your museum? Do you feel that it is empowering for women, especially in today's climate?
Oh, I think I see it happening, and I'm glad it does, and I'm hoping it continues to happen, because the fact of the matter is, between the male submissions and the female submissions, it's a 9-to-1 ratio. 9 times as many male artists submit work as does female artists. It's not that one's better than the other. It's just by dint of numbers, or almost 10 times more males than females. And we are actually probably the museum that has the most female Chicano artists, and we've been collecting them from the beginning and all through, And I get a lot of hassle for that, or, so, oh, you don't have enough women. Well, there's not enough women, I'm welcoming to women, believe me, and especially the artists, and I collect them extensively, but you get to a museum by being really good, so that they want you held up in a museum, it's not everybody submits a great artist, But there are a lot of great artists out there, and they're equally divided. The talent is equally divided between men and women. We're just going to get them more into the game. I mean, I think it's easier for a parent to understand a male coming to them. Well, I'm going to be an artist, or a female. Well, you got to get a job. You can't just be an artist. Whoever heard of a female artist? But we want to encourage. Yeah, you can succeed in this adventure too, because here's the proof of it on the walls. So we hope that they get the message.
Well, as a female, I appreciate that message, so thank you. Artist John Valadez describes artists in the early 1960s and 1970s painting themselves as to what it looked like being a Chicano after the Civil Rights Movement. In comparison from the Civil Rights Movement to today, do you believe Chicanos are more embraced by society or still discriminated against?
I think they're more embraced by society because they hear the message, and it's a wide message that's been going on for a long time. My dad, who died at 93 some years ago, always called himself a Chicano because that described him, and that's why I describe myself as a Chicano, because of that describes me. Uh, uh, I hated the hyphenated terms, Mexican American, Italian American, Chinese. Well, you're American or not, man? Come on, and uh, and uh, and so when that term came along, Chicano, that describes who I am. I'm not born in Mexico. I'm born in the United States, or have lived here since my whole life, and I have my cultural roots in Mexico. But I also have an equal amount of Cheerios and watching Howdy Doody and Ed Sullivan's show as anything else. And there's as many new influences coming into my world as there are old influences. Generally Chicanos don't speak the greatest Spanish in the world. And it depends on how either their parents speak or don't speak, or how many times they go to Mexico, or how But generally, you get in that school system and you're going to speak English. My father was punished for not speaking English when he went to his very first day in school, put in the corner, and maybe because he couldn't speak. So in that regard, yeah, it's changed a great deal. I was doing an interview with Bill Maher yesterday, and he said, and he says, people don't realize how much things have changed in just our lifetime, from really a long set values or attitudes, but things have changed enormously, and they will continue to change, and hopefully all for the benefit of society and our families and your families and everybody else's safety. So
Well, I hope our interview is just as interesting as Bill Maher's.
Well, his was longer.
Yeah. Hey, do you believe more museums will display Chicano art and be less discriminatory based on your influence?
Oh, it's already happening. I mean, it was happening right before this, because I started getting involved with LACMA, and we started doing programs together as soon as Michael Govan, the current director, came in, and he was very outreaching to all those communities that had heretofore been pushed away. So yeah, it's starting to spread there, and now you see other people, and that's why we're trying to get a foothold in the Midwest, because that's halfway across the country, and that's kind of where the Mexican influence kind of wanes or solidifies and wanes, because as you go farther east, it's more Puerto Rican, Cuban, Dominican, all those ethnicities there that are the more influential on the general society, so, and which is, and everybody has an influence, you don't make art in a vacuum, or, so it's interesting to see that those influences go on. Not all Latinos are the same. Some of them are, but not all are.
Going back to the climate and political change and all that, what piece of art in your museum do you think most represents today's political climate of Chicano studies?
Oh, wow, that's a hard question. There's ones that kind of indicate the origin. There's a painting by Vincent Valdez, who's like the artist of the day right now, and everywhere he's just voted Texas Artist of the Year, and he's gaining worldwide renown. And I bought his first painting that he ever made when he came out of RISD, and it was called "Killed the Pachuco Bastards," and it was the story of the inception of the Sleepy Lagoon murders that was leading up to that. That's where the sailors rampaged through the town of LA and attacked all the zoot suiters who were teenagers. You know, they were 13, 14, maybe 15, you know, and they were wearing these flamboyant suits in the age of austerity because we were in a war. And well, they were in a war too. You know, they went from zoot suiters to the front lines. And so that was a landmark time in the history of the United States, not just Chicano culture, but it was but he made a beautiful painting of it. I mean, a remarkable painting of it. It's on tour right now. We lent it. We're in the position of lending now. We lent it to the tour that was sponsored by Lackman. It's going out, a Vincent tour. And so yeah, it is absolutely gaining relevance, you know, just like they learned and were influenced by the painters of any school that came before them. That option now to be influenced by Chicano school is very much there, and it's part of the continuum of American art. And I have this T-shirt that says Chicano art is American art, you know, and so trying to get that, you know, and it's the same argument or the conversation that goes on, well, are Chicanos Americans, you know, or anybody's Americans, Chinese or whatever that is. And that's what America's made of, you know, so it is right in line with the cultural history of America.
You know, you mentioned that you recognize art as something that attracts you, something that has great elements, and how it instantly plays a great part in your collecting process of art. Do you see yourself reflected within the artwork in the Cheech Museum?
Me personally?
Yes.
Oh yeah. I'm the Mona Lisa of Chicano art, man.
Love it.
Well, there's a couple of artists, you know, at some point that always thought, well, if I paint a picture of Cheech, he'll buy it, you know. And after about the first kind of 10 portraits, yeah, I got enough of Cheech, every angle says, okay, find another subject, you know. Yeah, but that was, you know, because I was involved in the community. Also, I'm a celebrity outside of it, but I'm involved in the community right from the beginning, and the painting community, you know, because I was first of all entranced by their art. I thought it was the best art being created, painting being created, because Chicanos were not included or encouraged to be in part of the abstract construction of this or you know, installation art, or you know, but they were not, and because they come from a very long painting tradition. They never gave up the brush, and it's the most kind of immediate impulse. You get the inspiration for an art that comes out of your brain and through your arm and to a stick with hair on it. You know, that's and it's the most primitive way of making art. And they have never given it up. They have bettered it, you know, they have added their own influence in it. So that's kind of one, but they are involved in all kinds of forms of doing art right now, because okay, we'll let you into this show or be part of this show, and that's increasingly happening. And also, the young Chicanos and Chicanas, my daughter included, go to these prestigious art schools. She went to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, where she met a lot of other Chicanos who she didn't even know from LA that went there, or they go to RISD or Yale or something like that. You know, so they're doing well. You know, as well as having a kind of almost a natural inborn street instinct of what's happening around them. And the combination of those elements really creates something different, something unique, but something that we share in common in some aspect. So it's a good movement. It's not small, it's big.
Speaking of street instinct, artist Alfonso Gonzalez Jr. mentions how graffiti influenced his craft and how he was drawn towards its strong presence. He described it as something he wanted to be a part of and how thieves cross each other's art out to become an abstraction. How do you think graffiti can officially be seen as an artistic craft rather than a criminal act?
Oh, well, it has been. Yeah, starting from Chas Bojorquez, who is actually the godfather of great grandfather of graffiti art. He invented the program or the style. And he was always involved in like, am I crossing territory or getting crossed out? But he was accepted on a certain because he painted in the LA River. His first images, Señor Muerte, or it's a skull kind of thing, and that became his emblem. So he kind of put his tag everywhere, but it was in the river, on the banks of the river, that are cemented in. And so he was kind of respected by every neighborhood that image crossed into. So now there was kind of, lessening gang warfare and also advancing an art form at the same time. But he was the only one that was doing. He was unlike the taggers in the East who put their initials on there, and the object was to put your initials all over town, so you'd be famous all over town. And this one, it was establishing images and then expanding on those images in this particular style that started the growth of graffiti art as an art form.
And to expand on that idea, how can artists change the perspective of those who view graffiti as dark and intimidating? Do you have a clue?
Well, I think it's keep doing the art that they're doing, which kind of explains itself if you're following that. If you're not following that, it's just something that appears on your door or your garage or your window of your storefront or something, and they don't really consider it art. And which begs the question: is graffiti art only graffiti if it's done in a public place without permission? And that is it just graffiti, or how does it change into art when it is included in a gallery, when it's included in shows, when it's part of an element? It's just like rapping. How is that rapping now included in music? It's not music that we know. Oh, of course it isn't music that but everybody's going to know pretty soon, and that's going to be the dominant form, which turned out to be. So there we go.
You had mentioned your daughter earlier and the younger generations. What would you tell younger children who are interested in pursuing art in the future? Would you recommend art school or simply just inspiration by visiting museums?
Both, but going to art school is like if you want to be the world's best engineer, you go to a school that has good engineering school, and if you want to be an artist, you go to these. I mean, it's hard making your living as an actor. I know I've been fortunate, but making your living as an artist is 10 times as hard, because people don't need art, they think, in their life as they're surrounded already by art. But it is a need of society or any human being, whether they're carving on the side of a rock or or making graffiti. It is a need to express yourself, and graffiti and that tagging and marking on walls has its own strict rules because it's defining boundaries there at neighborhoods and they're very touchy about that.
Artist Judy Baca, who is a friend to you, mentions many years ago walking in Boyle Heights, she saw this powerful statement graffitied on a wall, which stated, "I'd rather live one day as a lion than 100 years as a lamb."
Yeah.
What does that statement mean to you?
Well, it's kind of almost a definition of the Chicano attitude. It is defined by being Mexican or Mexican American in some whatever that long transition road looks like, and being defiant about things that they're put upon you that shouldn't be. Why am I not getting the rights that everybody else is getting? Then I pay the same taxes. Why are my schools inefficient? Why are anything? Why am I not allowed to live in certain neighborhoods? Why am I not allowed to go into certain jobs? My father, again, was a LAPD for 30 years, because he couldn't advance in the Department of Water and Power because he was Mexican. And he took the test every year, came out #1, and every year cable splicer. And so that was the entry level job, and he wasn't allowed to, so. And so at that same time, the LAPD was hiring Chicanos, signed up without telling my mother, which is another issue. I don't want to get into that.
I know.
Yeah, but that's how it kind of. So now, then it came to, now my Uncle Rudy was the highest ranking Chicano in the force. He was the captain of Hollenbeck, and they named the station after him. If you go down there, you'll see a plaque with his name. And there's a part of my family, but they were, they started at the bottom level, the entry level, and they worked their way up. My dad was the head of recruiting for the LAPD for the last years of his on the force. And he worked in juvenile, which was unfortunate for me during my growing years, but it was okay for him. And that's how it works, so you have to kind of, Chicano art and Chicano people are American art and American people, so there we go. And it's as simple as that.
I love that. And you mentioned earlier that you call all the artists that they teach your kids. And that leads into this question. How does it feel to have inspired Chicano artists as someone who grew up in a similar background? Is there a familial sense of connection you feel with the artists?
Oh, absolutely. Now it can be done. Here is proof positive. We have our own museum, and because you're not really taken seriously as an art movement until you have your own museum. And it was pointed out by Christopher Knight in the article he wrote about, in the review he wrote about the opening of the Cheech. That's why he says, and he listed this whole long list of art movements and groups that did not have a museum: women's movement, gay art, blah, blah, blah. He went all down the line, and they don't, and it was the repetition, and they don't have a museum. And who would have thought that Chicano would be the one out of this group? That I would imagine it, because I've done the work for 50 years, and I know what, and we played in 50 museums, around the country and across the world. I saw it coming, and it was like a boulder that was rolling downhill. You either, get out of the way, or you hop on the back and write it down. But it's not going to stop. As well, it should not stop, because it's an addition to our art language in this world. And it's a worthy language.
We only have a couple of more questions for you.
Oh no!
I
more.
You've played, so many roles, and including, the series Lost. You played a father yourself to one of the leads, Jorge George.
Yeah.
How does it feel, having gone from an incredible acting background to seeing your name on a museum? Did you ever dream you would have a museum named after you?
No, not at all. I think I didn't allow myself to dream that, because I just didn't want that. It's an impossible dream. I'm not going to waste any energy. I could do all these other stuff rather than having my name emblazoned on the side of a museum. But one night after it was all said and done, and we had the museum, it was installed, the other directors of the people that worked for the Riverside Art Museum, we were walking back from an event at the auditorium next door. He says, "Hey, let's walk by the front. I mean, we'll show you something." And they walked by. And then when I got in the front, they lit up the building, and the sign lit up. At that point, you don't know what to say. The little 9-year-old kid in the library comes leaping out, like, wow. It's the most wow moment in your life, like, oh God, this is real, and it lit up. I love that it lit up. It was the best thing in the world, So it is an immense feeling of pride, but the best thing is watching people come in and interact with the art, and that is, and being proud of it is. I can tell you 100 stories that I've seen there of that phenomenon playing out and seeing art of their culture coming out and being part of the mainstream culture, which we always emphasize that it is. It's part of the mainstream culture. Yeah. And everybody's like, okay. We accepted the abstract expressionists, and we expected, welcomed everybody else. Why not us?
I'm flying out to California on the 23rd, and one of my goals is to go to the Cheech. So I'm really excited to see it.
You'll have a great time. It's a beautiful building and a beautifully cultural, California cultural town, historic town, and it was in the 1880s. Riverside, California, was the richest per capita city in the United States because of citrus. They grew everything citrus and they exported it throughout the world, So they had a lot of money and a small population. So they built all these historic buildings on Mission Boulevard. The last one being the library, which it became the Cheech. So it's a beautiful town to visit. It's a beautiful town to stay and see. And we're going to try to bring more cultural events and institutions to there. I'm working right now on the beginnings of trying to start the world's first lowrider museum out in Riverside too, and that's a perfect complement to the Chicano Museum, Art Museum. So we're working on that and hope we can get it done within some years. Everybody my age is popping off right now. So you just gotta eat your cereal and go to bed early, I think is my advice.
Well, I wish you all the best with that.
Huh?
I wish you all the best with that.
Yeah, well, it's worked so far. I'm feeling pretty good. But yeah, the paper, the obituary is not my friend right now.
Would you consider doing a television series related to the Cheech Museum in your art collection?
Ooh, nobody's ever asked me that. Wow, probably yes. I don't know if I would consider doing a TV series, a regular TV series at this point, and especially in our show, because that's all you do, and I got other stuff to do in the few remaining years I have left here, Granny.
PBS SoCal, right?
Oh,
PBS SoCal. Yeah.
that's coming up.
I know,
The
that's what
ARTBOUND
we're talking
episode.
about.
It turned out so great. It turned out really beautifully, and I'm really proud of it. And it premieres. I don't know exactly what October
4th.
4th.
Yes.
Very good. Thanks, Yvette. October 4th. You can see it on all your PBS stations. And I just let it speak for itself. It's a really good insight as to what's happening in our.
Okay. Well, we're talking about life and we're talking about art and we're talking about acting. So in closing, how would you want people to remember you?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one because they probably will as the years go on. I will be remembered more for the Cheech than anything else because it's a cultural institution, and as long as it's supported, it will be there. They may come in and out of knowing who I am vis-a-vis entertainment and being a Cheech or being an actor. And that because I'm at the stage of the young kids go, oh yeah, that guy, I know that guy, he's in every movie, But the Cheech it's there and it's open every day just about, and hopefully it'll be open forever. Because I'm told when I first started this project that by the museum executives that you're not considered a museum until you've been there at least 20 years.
That's interesting.
Okay, we're hoping for 20 here. We got 17 more to go. So come on, Chicanos. No, I think, but I think this museum will carry on. We're starting a campaign now because the Olympics in 4 years are going to be in Los Angeles. And I want to start this big foreign campaign. So when you come to Los Angeles for the Olympics, you have to come to see the Cheech. It's only an hour away. And then you might even want to stay in Riverside, blah, blah, blah. And so I think it'll bring a lot of people to the institution. And if the longer it stays there, the longer it will stay there, I think, because it's a progressive movement. It's an evolutionary movement. We keep creating these artists. They're interpreting their cultural experience, their neighborhoods. This is what my neighborhood looks like. These are what the people in my neighborhood look like. These are their joys and their sadnesses and their problems. But it'll keep changing as my neighborhood changes.
It has been a joy to speak with you, and hopefully we can meet in person again and not in Birmingham, Alabama. And yeah, really, thank you for your time. We are the Hollywood Times, the Hollywood Times today. The Hollywood Times Official is our YouTube channel, and everybody needs to watch the PBS SoCal special series October 4th. And
love it.
yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Miss Alabama. And thank you very much. We'll talk to you sooner. Come down to we'll see you at the Cheech. That'd be the best way.
Absolutely. It's been an honor.
My pleasure. You guys be cool, stay in school.
Thank you for the
Will do.
wonderful questions. Thank you
Okay.
all.
Of course.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye-bye.